John, hold the door. Hold the door. There.
Come on.
Just, okay, hold on. Let me, the nails, I dropped the, okay. There, that should hold. Okay. All right. Well, didn't look like anyone was in this house. Hello? Hey, the TV's on. Oh, the DVD player's on. Hey, there's some podcasting equipment that's also on.
Huh.
You want to do this?
Just to be sure, you did nail in all of the boards, like, as much as you could, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was a carpenter for a few years. I think I'd know how to nail in a few boards.
Well, I'm just gonna hit eject on this player and... Diary of the Dead?
Oh, yes. The George Romero 2007 film? Yeah. Not the movie I would have chosen to go out on. And based on the bloodstains, oh boy, it got bad in here. Well, let's hit play on that bad boy. Something plays here.
That's a good theme song. I like that. I'm not sure what else, aside from fighting zombies, that there really is left to live for.
Neither are the characters in this movie, maybe? I don't know. Let's talk this out. 2007's Diary of the Dead. Budget of reportedly about $2 million. Box office of Wikipedia says 5.3. I happened to download all of Wikipedia onto my phone. Written and directed by George Romero, of course, the master himself. And produced by Peter Grunwald, who produced pretty much all of his later works, including Land of the Dead and then the follow-up to this, Survival of the Dead.
What did he start with? Do you know?
What did he start with?
Yeah.
As producer? With George, I think it was Monkey Shines.
Okay.
The movie I always confuse with the Bryan Cranston movie, where there's a monkey in it.
Bryan Cranston.
There's an evil monkey.
Okay. The only thing that's coming to mind is Monkey Bone, which was the Brendan Fraser movie.
Yes. No, that's not it. No. There's a Bryan Cranston movie with an evil monkey, and I'm not gonna. I have to conserve my battery. I'm not gonna look that up now.
Oh, boy! If we don't get eaten, I have to know what that is.
Okay, cool. We'll try and find it when we loot a video store. This is a found footage movie, which I think is really cool. It was certainly something that was on George's mind based on the interviews and special features that I watched. And I'm a fan. I'm a fan of this movie. I'm one of two people in the world who liked this. This is definitely a mixed review movie.
Now, Theron, I'm going to tell you right now, I am not the other person.
I know. I gleaned that. Yeah. Well, when we were talking about this movie while we were boarding up the other windows in the downstairs, you mentioned that you did not care for it as much as I seem to do. I've probably seen this movie 5 or 6 times.
5 or 6. I would love for you to convince me.
I may have seen this more than Dawn of the Dead. I don't know. There's just something about it.
Ooh. Okay. This is an interesting movie to start our apocalypse with.
Yeah, it's not the same category as Night of the Living Dead, which I watch literally every year. Although of course now we're living that scenario, and it's horrifying down to my bones. But it's still good. This sticks with me.
Huh. When was the first time that you saw this movie?
I think I bought this on DVD pretty much as soon as it was available.
Okay.
So, must have been 2008 or 9.
That was before I met you, which I think
isn't that weird?
Says everything I need to know.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a nice bookend if we get killed tonight.
Oh, boy. These zombies. I am not thrilled
I could do without these guys. I'll tell you what.
I will tell you what. Well, I guess if anybody is left to even listen to this, I know a lot of you are trapped at home with the situation going on. Theron, what can you tell us about the plot of this movie?
Sure. This movie follows a small group of college film students who get caught out in the open while recording, ironically, a horror movie for a college credit class. Through many misadventures, they make their way across the countryside to one of their friends' houses where they think they can hole up for a little bit. Along the way, they encounter the best and worst that humanity has to offer. And it's sort of voyeuristically filmed, so we wonder if anything was worth it in the end. Is that about accurate?
That sounds like about the movie I watched.
Yeah. It starts with... So it is pretty much... It's all found footage. Now, it does have this sort of like conceit that I don't necessarily like about it, where they've got these voiceovers from one of the surviving college students, where she's
Deborah,
like, I've
right?
added music and sound effects, and I've done some edits to scare you more because I want you to be scared. I want you to wake up.
Yes. Oh boy, did I remember that line throughout the movie.
Which is a weird choice if you're going with the conceit that this is a thing that is happening all over. Because like I understand that there's maybe like a social call to action in kind of like the meta text of it, right? But that's a weird way to frame it. The movie actually opens in a way that I think is really neat. The first thing that happens is that there's a news crew out looking at a murder-suicide that has just occurred. And the very, very first action is that an ambulance rolls into flame and a cameraman jumps out and asks them to move because they're blocking a shot, and they oblige.
Yes.
I think that's a really strong opening because that's kind of the whole thing in a nutshell, right? Like, oh, we'll do anything for the media.
What was the? When did Nightcrawler come out? Have you seen that?
I haven't seen. I want to say Nightcrawler was. I would have been living in St. Louis, I think, at the time. I think Nightcrawler was 2014, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, definitely makes me think of that movie when you describe it that way.
Gave you some Nightcrawler vibes.
It did. Yeah.
So. Yeah, and then we sort of like. Of course, the victims of the murder-suicide rise up, they bite some cops, and then they get shot a bunch until they're dead. And then it cuts over to this college film production where we kind of meet our cast, and they start figuring out what's going on. I guess it's also important to say this movie is sort of a reboot. I guess now we might call it like a soft reboot.
Yeah.
Like acknowledging the continuity of something that was happening while also making its own. So once again, George Romero ahead of his time, inventing the soft reboot before anybody else did.
Right. Almost like it makes me think of the Thing remake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You mean the 2011 one, not
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the beat for beat remake of The Thing.
Well, yeah, I think 2011, the female is the lead role, and then it turns out like, oh, this is a prequel.
Yeah, there's something to that. And in fact, there's a part in the movie where you can hear on the radio, there's like omnipresent radio narration through it, right? And you can hear on the radio that they are playing the announcement from the original Night of the Living Dead, which sort of
I definitely caught that.
It puts those two movies in conversation, which obviously not an accident.
Right.
I know he was a guy who liked to figure things out kind of on the day. Like I have no idea what his pre-production was like for anything, but I know they did a lot of stuff on the day where they would go, wouldn't it be cool if, and then they'd figure out how to do it. But like in general, even with that, I think the guy knows what he's doing. He doesn't like make mistakes.
Yeah, I'm willing to agree that he really committed to every choice that he made. Like none of this was just sort of winging it, I would say.
Yeah. And they couldn't. This might have been like his most planned movie. Frankly, it had to have been, because this was a new mode of operation for pretty much everybody involved. He had certainly never done a found footage movie
Right.
before. In interviews, that he only talked about Blair Witch and Cloverfield, which I've seen those two, and Vantage Point, which I have not. I don't even really know what that is. But those are his three like reference points for coming up with this. And I guess, like, yeah, there were other found footage movies, but they were not the thing that they are. And they've kind of gone back out of fashion.
Yeah, I suppose so. And even like Cloverfield was like, I also learned from some interviews that Romero had no idea that that was in production at the same time. Like he's talked about how it's almost like this collective unconscious sort of thing, that he was making Diary of the Dead at the same time that Cloverfield was being made, at the same time as another movie called Redacted was being made by Brian De Palma that had this similar idea.
And I'm not sure when, I can't remember when Quarantine or Rec came out, the Spanish film that got turned into Quarantine.
Probably. Not too far away.
But that's another found footage zombie movie that I think got a lot more traction.
Mm-hmm. That was 2007, actually, the same year.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, so all of these were being produced about the same time in like 2006.
But I guess they were thinking about the same thing that he was. Like, I know specifically he was interested in examining our relationship to emerging media, right? So, in fact, this film, as part of its promo campaign, had a contest on MySpace, of all places, where like featured, you could submit a short film like under 3 minutes, and they would pick some winners to be included with the DVD. I have watched them all. They're fine. They're fine. One's even really good, in fact.
Oh, okay. I'm glad to hear that. I was unsure what to expect, and also I felt like it was like I read it on the back of the DVD case. It was left here by this family. God rest their souls. But I wondered if they were really given any compensation beyond exposure.
I don't know. I do think it's interesting that he talks so much in interviews about people just kind of want to be heard. They want to be important. They want to be experts, and that seems to be what they're willing to be compensated with. It's interesting that he's critical of that. I think in this film, which has like, because of the radio, and it has like a lot of sort of talking heads that appear as they're able to get sort of sporadic internet access and look at the news. I think it's interesting that he maybe turned around and might have done the same thing to these contributors on MySpace.
Absolutely.
Although one of the winners is Teller from Penn and Teller.
No kidding? Huh.
Yeah, from the Vegas magician. It's one of the two good ones. 2.5. There's one that has a lot of promise. It doesn't stick the landing, but it's just interesting that he's got one in there, and that it's fun and funny, and of course he is using a lot of what I assume are his own personal guns in that movie.
Teller, you mean? Is he a big gun enthusiast?
I don't know one way or the other, but I know he and Penn are famously open about being libertarians, so I would assume so.
Yes.
But I digress, as I promised I would not do. We got as far as them being in the woods. We meet our characters. I don't have a lot to say about the characters. I would say in general, at least in the Dead movies, that Romero kind of plays in bold sort of archetypes. Like, he's got these characters who are just like iconic, but they're not complicated, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yes, they change and evolve a little bit, but we don't watch his films because of its character work, right?
Right.
So I don't have a lot to say about the characters. One is the director, and he becomes like the cameraman for the whole thing. One is another director who's sort of skeptical about everything going on. It takes him quite a lot of convincing to understand that there's a zombie apocalypse happening. There's someone who's, broadly speaking, in any other movie, I would call him like the nerd.
Oh yeah, that was how I referred to him while I was watching it.
Yeah, which is weird because he doesn't really act like it, but he doesn't really seem to have a lot of characterization. He just kind of looks like one, but when it comes down to it, he's like the most violent. You've got sort of the generic hot girl. It's Amy Lalonde playing this Texan college student, and to her credit, she objects to being cast in this horror movie that they were making as like a sexy blonde lady. She does not care for this. She thinks it's stupid. It's predictable, but there's actually a nice payoff to this later when she's like, how come women in movies are always tripping over their shoes and their dresses and like getting their tops ripped off and stuff by monsters?
Yeah, and then boy does she get her top ripped off.
You just made it sound like she got killed. She did not. She
no, I meant in the sense that like it was sort of ridiculous how much it agreed with her analysis.
Yeah. And like I said, it's you see it coming, but it's I think an okay payoff, and she is in fact upset that this is happening, and she does kind of, I don't know, she gets her revenge a little bit, which I think is great. But any other thoughts on these characters? Oh, they're also joined by their faculty advisor, who you quite liked.
Well, I would not go that far. I was fascinated by him, I will say.
He gave a compelling performance?
No.
No? Okay. I was just... You've brought him up a bunch in our conversations. So I was wondering what brought you to him, but I guess we can talk about that in segments if you want.
I'm willing to say this right now, which is... did you ever watch the Battlestar Galactica series from like 2004?
Why, yes, I did.
Okay. The teacher of Diary of the Dead immediately reminded me of the lawyer in Battlestar Galactica named Romo Lampkin. Do you recall him?
Okay, yes. Yes, I do.
Okay. In that we'd had a relatively serious story up to this point. And then out of nowhere, there's this
wisecracking British guy.
Impossibly wisecracking British guy who is also an alcoholic, who might also be a kleptomaniac, who has an opinion about everything that happens through the whole movie.
Yeah, he's you get the sense that this is George Romero's OC, Do Not Steal.
A little bit. And I just think, like, of all of the characters, that was the most unbelievable character of, like, someone you would actually encounter and bring along on your zombie journey. You'll notice that we don't have a teacher with us right now in this boarded up house.
Well, we did, but he died.
And frankly, for good reason.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, who needs a French teacher in the apocalypse?
Je ne sais quoi.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I just think that character in particular was what initially really took me out of this movie.
Yeah, he's definitely overwrought.
That's a great word for it.
A few times he serves as an additional voiceover. Like he's got some moments where he like literally turns to the camera and he's like, "This is what is happening here. That's what this is about."
Yeah.
He seems like he's an actor searching for some scenery to chew. It's just not quite that kind of movie, the same way that Day of the Dead was. Like, you've got Colonel Rhodes, like, just like running rip shit all over the place, like screaming.
He does, but it works.
Yeah, no, it's great. He's like a caged animal.
Yep.
Which is perfect for that role. And you get the sense that maybe he was supposed to be someone like that, someone to get like a real actor to get that energy. And I do think Scott Wentworth, who plays that character, I think he does the best he can with what he has, but he's basically like, he's the footnotes in a hitchhiker's guidebook. He's got all these sort of asides
constantly.
I don't know that works for me. I like a few things that he does. I like that he
Sure.
implies that his character might have been in the army or something.
Right. He's got some... He says the war, but you don't really know what war he's referring to at this point.
Yeah, and like he doesn't like using guns. So later he gets a bow and arrow, and he's equally good with that, of course.
Of course.
Because he's a 7th level fighter. He can use whatever weapon he picks up. And then he's like, "Oh, I was on the archery team. I was hoping I would never have to use it." I don't know. Like he clearly put some thought into this character. Would not surprise me if he suggested things to George, and George was like, "Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it."
Yeah, I definitely get the impression that, like, even aside from suggestions, he probably played the character exactly as written.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, he also offers them 5 college credits for making this movie, which is an insane amount of college credits.
That's a heavy load.
That's yeah, but for making a movie, buddy, you better bet I would just bang that out and then take basically the rest of the semester off.
Does he survive to the end of the movie? I honestly can't remember.
He does, yes. He's one of the...
Oh, right, because he's in the bunker.
He's one of the people who makes it into the panic room at the end.
Right. So he could, in fact, give them those credits.
Yes, in fact. I suppose... So it does have a happy ending. They do get their credits.
Which, considering the amount of student debt that they're about to go into... Whew.
I don't know. All the bankers are getting eaten, so they're probably... I don't know. Anything they do over the next 10 years is going to count as public service. So in 10 years, they'll be able to erase it. It's fine. One of the students, after they escape and run over some zombies on the road, the student who was driving the car, produces a gun from nowhere and attempts to kill herself. Doesn't work, so they take her to a hospital. This was one of the weirder parts of the movie. Not the fact that they're in the hospital, but just like they were in the middle of nowhere.
Indeed.
And then in the next scene, they're in an abandoned hospital.
And not only that, but that hospital had a high-end HD video camera just hanging out in a room.
Well, that kind of gets explained later. They show the last recording on it, which was like a guy filming his kid's birthday, right?
Yes.
And then a zombie clown comes and bites him. I think we can assume that he was holding that while they rushed him to the hospital, and so that was still in his hands. Which is fine. It feels like that was trying to be in conversation with Signs a little bit. That that scene in Signs
with a clown.
No, there's no. Yeah, actually, all of the aliens in Signs turn out to be clowns.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's been a while.
No, there's a scene that it's like a kid's birthday party in Mexico, I think, and the alien appears and it's really scary. I think that might be trying to reference that somehow. It doesn't really work because it doesn't quite have any of the things that makes that scene work in Signs, including a jump scare, which this definitely doesn't have. In fact, they try to beat the zombie clown's nose, and his whole nose comes off.
It does, yes. I definitely remember that part.
How fast is that motherfucker decaying?
I think he has to have been decaying for the last couple hours.
He's just falling right to pieces immediately.
Yeah. Now, I know that it's not particularly safe, but if you could, I would really appreciate it if you could shine the flashlight while I try and find the restroom in this house.
Okay, hold on. There's my flashlight. Thank God you're back. You made it.
just enjoying this salted nut roll that I surprisingly found in this out-of-the-way farmhouse. Okay, and I'm good.
Yeah, so they're in this hospital, and this is kind of where the situation sort of begins to hit home, because the hospital is immediately abandoned, right? Apparently, it's only been a few hours, but everyone is dead or gone, which is convenient for the budget of this movie, I suppose.
Well, but also, like, of course, there would be so many people who were like on the verge of death in a hospital.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It would be. This is where they figure out like, oh, you got to shoot him in the head. This is where they start realizing like, oh, it's the bites that do it. This is where they find their second camera. I do like in the movie where the guy Jason, our main character played by Joshua Close, has to stay plugged in to the wall while the battery charges. I like that they make that a concern.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I like about Romero's movies in general is that things work and also things fail.
Mm-hmm.
Any of his movies you watch where people are like boarding up windows or whatever, he's thought through all this, and it would be a concern to keep the camera charged. I think another filmmaker might not have come up with that, or else it would be full charge until the very end of the movie. And then like the last thing would be the camera running out of batteries. That's how almost every other found footage movie ends.
Sure.
But he thought through this one, and even like he hears like screaming and like gunshots and stuff. His friends are in danger, but he's more interested in making sure the camera is charged. This is sort of like this fetish object that he's tied himself to,
which presumably will protect him somehow from the apocalypse.
Yeah. And it almost does. It does kind of work as a talisman of sorts. Oh! I do got to talk about this. They try and kill a zombie with a defibrillator by putting the paddles against her head. All it does is make her eyeballs explode.
Yeah.
And like the zombie is like stunned, which is something my wife giggled at a lot, and so did I, because I also thought if that's how defibrillators work, wouldn't that happen literally every time you tried to resuscitate anybody with them? It would make their eyeballs explode.
Well, but how often do you put a defibrillator?
Not an electrician, but I don't think that's how that works. I think if a defibrillator next to your temples can make your eyeballs explode, a defibrillator right in your chest would do the same thing, right?
I guess it depends on how.
Is the brain that insulated?
The heart compares to the eyes in terms of structural integrity.
I guess it's a neat idea that it winds up being silly, although to its credit, it's still kind of silly in the movie because it doesn't work. It does not kill the zombie. Yeah.
Can I say, actually, so one of the things that I learned while reading about this movie is that George Romero, after this is now his 5th zombie movie, he's just running out of ideas of how to kill a zombie. He's had 4 movies worth of trying to figure out, like, well, okay, we already did that one on the last movie, so how are we going to be inventive about this one? And apparently his method is he just takes a shower.
That's how I do my thinking.
And every time he takes a shower, he comes up with a new way of killing a zombie, and the defibrillator happened to be one of them.
What a just a real guy,
He is, yes. I definitely got that impression. How could you not be, coming from Pittsburgh?
What a legend. Just doing that. He worked with Mr. Rogers, for God's sake.
He did. I read that, and then I immediately thought of Michael Keaton working for Mr. Rogers, and I was sad that the two of them never got together for a movie project.
George Romero and Michael Keaton.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Who would he have been? Oh, he would have been the Dennis Hopper character in Land. Oh, he would have been so good at that. That would have been great. Maybe we can make a zombie movie after this. It'd be easy. All we have to do is turn on our phone cameras until they run out of battery. Technically, anything we do is a zombie movie. as long as we're recording it now.
I think that was the point of Diary of the Dead.
I think that was the point of Diary of the Dead. They make their way to a barn because they have some car trouble, and they are rescued by the Amish man.
Yes, the Amish man.
I actually liked this part. Sounds like you also didn't, but I thought again, oh, this is a neat idea that there is a deaf Amish man who owns this property, who gives them shelter, is able to blow up some zombies with dynamite, and is able to kill several others, but is unfortunately killed in the ensuing carnage as more and more zombies spawn in from the nearby spawn point.
Well, and it should be pointed out that he, it's not like he was taken completely by surprise. Like, he was the author of his own death.
I suppose, yes. One of the more ridiculous kills in this movie, a zombie bites him, and he swings a scythe through his own skull, killing both him and the zombie who's biting him.
Yeah, and that is a shower idea from Romero that, frankly, I had not seen before.
And I hope never to see again, because that is ridiculous.
I appreciate, I will admit to the realism of, okay, these are students in Pittsburgh, so they're obviously in the Pennsylvania countryside throughout the movie, so it would in fact make sense to run into an Amish man. They're gonna exist in the zombie apocalypse.
Yes, and I think it would. I think you could hang a whole movie on that, honestly.
Potentially, yeah.
And there's I don't know, Blood Quantum is a movie about Indigenous Canadians who have survived the zombie apocalypse by virtue of their tribe is immune to it through whatever genetic predisposition. They can survive a zombie bite and nobody else can. And this topic should be explored for traditionally marginalized communities whose unique sort of identity is what allows them to survive the apocalypse. I think there's a lot of room there. There's actually I don't know if it was cut or whatever, but at some point there's a follow-up book to World War Z with different authors contributing stories, and one of them was an Amish community surviving the apocalypse, and it is in part their isolation, and their community doesn't make noise, so it doesn't attract the zombies. They have a lot of discipline and stuff, and they can teach their children not to fuck around with zombies. And they also, after a few zombies get into their community and eat their cattle and stuff, they wind up hooking them to plows because.
Oh no.
Well, no, it's in the book. It's framed as if you don't work, you don't eat, and since these people have already eaten, we shall put them to work. And so they're because they've eaten all their plow animals. I'm not prepared to comment on the imagery or anything. I just think that's one of those kind of neat ideas that comes from, well, let's think about how that would work.
Yeah, I see it.
Anyway, that didn't wind up in World War Z, to my recollection, but it was in some other book that Max Brooks wrote. If that was something he wrote, I do think it deserved to be on the cutting room floor, but that is at least another example I can think of. And so yeah, I really think you could hang a whole movie on Amish zombie apocalypse. You could even probably do it respectfully and tastefully. This was okay. This one was okay. I was a little disappointed to learn that they did not cast a deaf actor in that role. I think that would have been an easy thing to do. But it was also 2007. People weren't quite there in terms of thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
And George Romero seems like the type of person who, if anyone had said anything at any point, he would have gone, "Oh yeah, okay, let's do that."
I can see that. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. The kids wind up in a compound of some sort that's been taken over by the local black community, because it's a George Romero movie, so we got to have some strong powerful black characters, and these are fine.
He felt obligated. Yeah,
A little bit. I don't like that their leader is like smart, and that everyone else is sort of like gangster stereotypes a little bit.
Now, why is that?
Because it's just another thing of like the leader of that group is like, we're not leaving because for the first time we have the power here because everybody left. And I also don't like that framing, because I would have more readily accepted something of like, you know, they ask him, why don't you leave? And it's because, like, I would have been more interested if he had said something like, this is our home. Or like, you know, like, this is our community and we're here to look after each other. That, to me, that's both more interesting. It would have showed a little more like growth on Romero's part, and that is typically how people actually respond in times of incredible crisis. But when it's just like, oh, we have the power, then it's just kind of leaning back into the normal criticism of zombie movies, is this kind of like right-wing media, right, where everyone's a big piece of shit, and the only thing that keeps us from looting and killing everything is this little like veneer of society, right? Which is right. The idea he typically explores, and he's just sort of saying it a little more like urbane this time through this character. Yeah, I think it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I can see that. I understand what you're getting at.
They go to the girlfriend's house. Michelle Morgan plays Deborah, who is Jason's girlfriend. They go to her house. They, of course, find her family has been zombified. They kill all them and escape. They get robbed by the National Guard, who are left. And then finally they arrive just in time for the third act at Ridley. That's
how convenient.
Their classmate Ridley, played by Philip Riccio, who is not quite worth talking about in one of our segments coming up. But he plays Jared Kushner in the like Comey Rule TV adaptation. Whatever that was. Yeah, that's good casting, right? But that's really all I wanted to say about him. I love this character, though. I think this guy is great. Here's a guy chewing scenery. Ridley played the mummy in their student film. He's like all wrapped up in bandages, which is how he stays for the show. He's just this like spoiled rich kid. He's got this huge mansion, which has like a pool and a panic room and like an enormous like walk-in freezer and like generators and all this stuff. And he's just like partying his life away at the end of the world. So they're in this house. Everything, of course, breaks bad. It turns out Ridley had been bitten the whole time. He has shoved all of his zombified family and staff and one of the other film students, as they all turned undead, he shoved them into the pool where they apparently couldn't escape.
Which I thought was smart.
I thought that was great. Yeah, he keeps saying he's being really cagey about it. He keeps saying like they're out back, or I buried them, but he didn't like bury them in the garden. He just shoved them in the pool, and they can't get out. You know, zombies can't swim.
Right, or even like climb ladders most of the time.
Yeah, which they do wind up doing at the very end, which I think really undercuts the scene. At the very end, there's a thing on the monitor showing the zombies climbing out of the pool because they like found the stairs, which I would have just not had, because it's like, oh, couldn't they have just done that?
Yeah, well, I think it was maybe their moment of awakening, sort of like Big Daddy in the previous movie.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, they stayed underwater until they got smart.
Right. That one of them just sort of happened upon the ladder and it just like...
learned behavior.
Yeah. An idea sparked. They saw the monolith and they were like ready when the weird music came up from Penderecki.
Gotcha. Okay, sure. Sure, I'll take that. Yeah, so, you know, the other film students die, including Jason, who gets bit by Ridley. There's a great moment, I think, where Professor Maxwell then cuts his head in half with a sword, and then our three survivors run into the panic room and shut the door as the zombies start breaking in.
Which seems short-sighted, considering everything that they've gone through to date.
Yeah, and then Deborah, I guess, edits the rest of the movie together. And this has kind of been set up. They're showing Jason is editing the movie together whenever he has a chance. Mm-hmm. And so then Deborah apparently finishes it and uploads it. And this, dear reader, is the story you just finished watching.
Wait, so she finishes editing in the safe room?
I think that's the implication, because then she also adds her like voiceovers and stuff,
right?
And the music. She has added all this and edited the movie together, which is why I don't think it's supposed to be a tragic ending, even as she ends on a note of wondering if humanity is worth saving, because she's showing some footage of like some good old boy hunters like using zombies for target practice. Which I also like, because that's the end of the first movie of Night of the Living Dead in a right. very real way. It's just like George Romero's opinions on, I think, guns and authority has changed quite a bit since the late 60s. And it was not positive to begin with. But yeah, evidently she was able to complete this and disseminate it over the internet somehow.
Well, and presumably the implication being that humankind survives somehow in order for us, the viewers, to be watching this.
Right. I think maybe that's what her call to action is supposed to be at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Like, I want you to wake up. And it might be like, wake up and, evolve to a better state, humankind. We've had this brush with death, and then some. We have a chance to do better here.
So it's like don't forget that these events did actually happen.
Yeah. And that's, maybe too generous of a reading on it, but I think it is a reading. I think George Romero probably just thinks that, humanity is kind of nasty, British, and short, I guess. And
what? I want to make sure I heard you correctly. Nasty, British, and short?
Oh, that's funny. No, nasty, brutish, and short. You've never heard that term?
Brutish. Okay. No, I've definitely heard that.
Nasty, British, and short, just like Professor Maxwell. Do you have any other thoughts on scenes or the story, or?
Well, okay. So I think the thing that I struggled with the most while watching this movie is that, so like in the previous movies that Romero made, yes, they were a straightforward zombie movie, but if you thought about it for a little bit, you would get a sense of like, oh, actually there's some interesting social commentary here. Like, I can see how Romero was sort of looking ahead to what he could imagine happening in the next several years, and he was trying to suggest what that might be with the zombie movies. And then in this movie, it felt like his vision was a little, like, not quite as far in the future, and he was not nearly as subtle about it. The whole time, very above the board of like, oh, these young people, they're recording a little too much. Boy, are they obsessed with documenting everything.
I think a common criticism of this movie includes the words heavy and handed.
And I can absolutely see that.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. This is where I think you and I differ a little bit. Hey, what was that?
Did you check the bedroom?
Oh, we walked right into the living. We didn't check any of the other rooms.
Oh, God.
Oh, shit, John, get a bat. Oh my God. That was a close one. Mental note, next time we should probably check the room before we start recording.
That makes sense.
Well, we were talking about the themes in this. Yeah, we said heavy-handed, maybe a little bit.
At least a little bit.
In Red Letter Media, they said something about Land of the Dead, where they were like, Latter-day Romero seems to be aware that people said, hey, your movies have social commentary in them, and he sort of like leaned into that, which I don't totally agree with, because I think he has generally always had some idea of what he wanted to say, which makes a lot of sense, especially like his training was in, quite famously, advertising.
Right.
You have to know what your message is. You can't just like make that up on the day, you know? You got to know what your product is that you're selling. So I think coming from that background, he always had some idea of what he was trying to say. I don't think that's a new one, and I don't think this is necessarily any more clumsy than Land of the Dead, which I thought is more bland, I guess.
Yeah.
I know, like, some of the things he was thinking about when he was making this one, from interviews and stuff. One thing that he brings up a lot, even makes its way into the film as a line of dialogue. He said, and in the movie, some news reporter says over the radio, when I was a kid, we had three news channels, and now there's 40,000, and everyone's got a camera, right? So. Part of the thing he's talking about is not necessarily that, these kids are always recording stuff, because we weren't even really there yet.
Right.
Not in 2006, 2007, right? A thing that did terrify him was that, and this is where I think this is a thing where he was ahead of his time, is that did democratize who can share information and who can receive it, usually for ill, because at least with NBC, CBS, CNN, whatever, nominally there's some kind of fact-checking going on, right? There's some legitimacy to this, but with the internet, anybody can have a voice, even if they're wrong. And I would say that we have really seen that explode since this time. In ways that he could not have possibly anticipated, where our media has a more and more openly far right bias, just by feeling the need to treat certain issues as a debate between two equal sides, which illuminates very radical and very dangerous, like, far right ideas and ideology that wouldn't happen if there was some sort of, like, fact checking or something. But people want to see the debate. That's what news networks think that we want to see. So
yeah,
I think he was once again kind of ahead of the curve on this. Where I think we miss it a little bit is that I would have liked to have seen more news from the internet getting things wrong. I think that would have driven home the point of what he was saying a bit more.
Well, here, can I'd like to read you a quote, actually, from George Romero.
Always.
Because I also thought about this a lot. And, like, I'll start off by saying I think similarly about, at least with Night of the Living Dead and Dawn, that the social commentary that was there was interesting to me in the sense that it sort of presaged those problems becoming so much more prominent in society by several years. So, like, just basic example, Dawn of the Dead is all about, like, excess consumerism and capitalism gone wild and stuff like that. But it came out in the 70s, and the society at large really didn't start, like, looking into that until the 80s, after Reagan came into power, and then, like, yes, now it's all about consumerism and everything. And so with this movie, one of the interviews that I read with Romero, the interviewer is asking about the fact that this movie chronologically takes place at the same time as Night of the Living Dead. And so the interviewer was extrapolating of, like, oh, well, do you think if you made a sequel that they might, like, go to the mall or go to the science lab from Day of the Dead? And Romero's response was, no, I don't think so. No, it's simultaneous. So they could, but that's not the way I would want to go with it. The biggest thing that we didn't touch on in Diary was the idea that somebody, anybody, any lunatic could throw up a blog and all of a sudden he's got 50 people following him. We didn't really touch on that so much, and that's a direction that I'd like to go with, the idea of people developing tribes just by preaching to the converted. People that tune in to Rush Limbaugh know what he's going to say and already agree. That's what happens, I think, with these columnists.
Yeah, I saw that quote a few times. And he had, like, by this time we were seeing the beginnings of the Tea Party.
Yeah.
Just the very beginnings of them. Like, he didn't know how bad it was going to get.
Yeah.
Frankly. But I don't know. I all I hear is you agreeing with me that, like, he knew what he was trying to do.
Well, but here's what the reason I bring that up is that I think it's like, okay, there's an example of, like, at the time, he definitely still saw what was coming in a very, like,
yes,
accurate, prescient way. But I think with this movie that maybe he, like, rushed it a little bit, because in the movie, I don't think he really got that point across. There was so much about, like, the perils of recording everything and distancing yourself from what you're recording, and it was almost more like when people get mad about a nature documentary recording a polar bear who's starving rather than, like, doing something to help the polar bear. And that was an argument that we had in society, but it's not nearly as interesting as what he, like, could have been doing with this plot that he had constructed.
Yeah, I've got two thoughts on that. One is that this is kind of what I said earlier, was that the movie we got was not necessarily the movie that was in his head,
right?
Or
right.
The movie that he started thinking about maybe after this was in the can.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, had to look back and start the edit and go, well, so what was this about, actually? And then the other thing is, I was thinking about that whole, like, the camera as an instrument of desensitization, mm-hmm. also. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how Romero felt about this, but I know I saw an interview with Tom Savini, mm-hmm. once, and he was a battlefield photographer in Vietnam.
Whoa! I did not know that.
He talked about the camera. Well, that's why he wasn't able to do the effects for Night of the Living Dead.
Oh,
apparently, is he was supposed to, and then he was drafted.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was a photographer in the armed forces. I don't know exactly what capacity mm-hmm. that's in or how that works, but he talks about like the camera and the lens being a way to keep himself sane. Is that he had this piece of glass that was doing the work for him, and mm-hmm. it's once again that sort of like that talisman property of the camera, right? That right. It's the technology is doing this evil thing. And I read an essay about this movie that references this idea that, like, the camera and the gun are the same thing, is that this is a technology that's committing the murder. It's enabling you to do this thing.
And boy, did they make that clear in the dialogue.
Yeah, I could have done without all the voiceovers, frankly. It's got that...
Even without the voiceovers, how many times did someone turn to somebody else and say, here, shoot them, and hand over a camera?
I think that is clever. I do. I do think that's clever. And I think he was definitely playing with the dual meaning of those words. In fact, at the end of the movie... they're trying to check out Ridley's mansion, right? And see if... Because, like, the door's wide open, so they're like, fuck, it's probably crawling with zombies. Mm-hmm. But what happens? Jason runs in first, doesn't even check the room, and he just turns around and says, okay, now everyone can come in, so I can get you coming in.
No, I definitely get that, yep.
And I think that's great. I think stuff like that is great. You know, it gives you... it gives you this sense that this character is becoming unglued from reality in a way, and it's his like dedication to the camera that's doing it. It's everyone else is living in the moment, and he's unable to do that. And in fact, this essay also references the sort of the violence of the captured image, and that once you put someone on film, like you've almost taken away their consent to like live in that moment ever again, right? Because like now it belongs to whoever sees that. It's not their own. And that's I think a neat idea that this film does play with, and I think sometimes successfully. And why I like this movie more than Land of the Dead is that this is George Romero back in his like creative mode of taking swings. I don't think they're all successful, but I think he is pushing himself and taking some risks with this. And I think that's great. I think it gives me hope that I hope at the end of my life I can still be producing things that I'm uncomfortable with. He definitely did not know how to shoot a found footage movie. He had to get other people to show him how to do that. He barely knew what the genre was. It was brand new. But he wanted to do it because he was like, this is where the story is coming from.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that facet of his creative personality, of trying to figure out like what's going on and to say something about that with his art.
Yeah, I love a movie that's ambitious. I think there's a lot of creators whose their best work is way behind them, and certainly some of the stuff he produced at the end of his life was not as good, like by far, as some of his early work. But he's not like Mel Brooks. I made a joke on Twitter the other day of, wow, they could never make Blazing Saddles today. That's because all of the lead actors are dead and Mel Brooks is way past his creative peak. And I don't think the same thing was quite true of George Romero. Yes, he fell, but not nearly as far as some other creatives had at that period in their life, and that fills me with hope. And I like this movie for what it almost was, which isn't going to be true of all ambitious failures, but it's true of this one.
I understand, because I feel that way about so many other creative endeavors that I've seen or video games that I've played or so on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, that said, I thought this was a terrible movie.
Okay. I would like to hear, you've heard me. Let's hear your version of that.
Okay, so watching through this movie, especially knowing that certain death was outside the door the whole time, I think maybe this was the core thing I came away with, is that it was really sort of darkly funny to me that the whole movie, from the very beginning, the conceit of it is that this is the movie that these college filmmakers made. And you're just watching the footage, sort of like Blair Witch. And
right.
The whole movie that you and I watched, like down to the acting, the makeup, the special effects, the editing, the dialogue, it was all on about the level, to me, of a college student film. It
sure.
was,
yes,
like, I don't know, I just laughed at so many parts of it that I don't think I was supposed to be laughing at. I can see the ambition that you were talking about, definitely, and I understand that he was like interested in what was changing about the world and what was going on, and as I said before, I think he could definitely see where things might be headed. And I just feel like maybe in trying to go back to his roots, and he said in multiple interviews, like, Land of the Dead was just too big. I was worried I was about to make Beyond Thunderdome. And so I wanted to make, like...
What a comparison, by the way. What a perfect comparison. That's great.
It really is. And he made it in multiple interviews, so he definitely had it on his mind.
With Dennis, starring Dennis Hopper as Tina Turner.
Basically. But I think maybe he was just a little rushed. Like, I wish that he could have taken just a little more time with it, rather than trying to capture the spirit of, like, we're young, broke filmmakers, and we've only got 20 days to do this, and so we're just going to make it happen. Because I think that the kernel of the idea of, like, how would the world react in this situation when everybody is connected, everybody has a camera, and everybody is able to have a voice, you know, how much can you trust any of the information that you're receiving from the outside world? And I think that that's a much more interesting story than the dangers of trying to record everything or distancing yourself from the brutality of what's happening in front of you because you have a camera.
I don't disagree. I think we actually have a lot of the same thoughts about this movie. It's just that the origin of all of our opinions is kind of the same points, but they wind up at different destinations.
Sure, I can see that.
Like I have not disagreed with a single one of your points, but for me this movie's just got vibes, man. This movie passes the vibes check.
Well, that's probably one of the segments that we should do while we're stuck here in this terrible haunted farmhouse.
Do you want to get into segments?
Yeah, let's do it. Who's that jabroni?
Who is that jabroni? So this is the segment where zombie movies, I think, pretty famously full of character actors, just wall-to-wall character actors. And so this is the segment where we talk about people whose performances we found impressive, or who you may have seen and gone, who is that jabroni? And so what else they were in. You want me to start, or do you want to do it?
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll go ahead and start with a couple of the cameos. So, at some point, there is a sort of stereotypical Southern preacher on the radio telling everyone, like, get on your knees, everybody,
yep.
Get on your knees. Yeah. Do you know who that is, John?
I don't. I have maybe a guess, but I definitely remember him because he swore at the end of his religious speech.
Yes. That is George Romero's personal friend and fellow 6'4" giant, famed, acclaimed horror author Stephen King.
Wait. Okay, you're telling me that both George Romero and Stephen King are 6'4"?
Yes, that's why they were friends. I'm sure of it.
Wow.
Literally the only people in the room on the same level.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's amazing.
Yeah, they're both enormous men.
Wow.
So it sounds like you knew that might have been Stephen King, but not that he was 6'4".
Well, I did see that many of the news broadcasts in the film were famous horror-related people, like Quentin Tarantino, Wes Craven, Guillermo del Toro, Simon Pegg.
Yeah, I would not have known where the other ones were if I hadn't watched some of the special features, which included, like, the recording.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. I was surprised when I read that.
Yeah, Simon Pegg especially is really in the background, like, of the audio mix of the scene he's in. He's playing, like, a British newscaster, of course. And they might have done that to keep it in cameo territory, because he does have quite a recognizable voice, I think. Stephen King is, of course, like, doing a character, so he gets to stay in. Quentin Tarantino, I had trouble recognizing. I remember hearing his voice, but more his mannerisms. Guillermo del Toro has a pretty good cameo that I wish had been in the audio mix more, where he plays apparently like a Mexican politician, of someone of Mexican descent, talking about immigration and saying, the real problem is not people crossing the border between our two countries. It's these things crossing the border between life and death.
Yep, I definitely remember that one.
Which I also like that thought, and that's another thing of, like, oh, you could make a great movie about, like, people trying to cross into Mexico or something from Texas in the zombie apocalypse. You could have something really good there. And frankly, Del Toro's the guy to do it.
Yeah.
And then Wes Craven is also in it, and I have no idea what he is. I don't think I could pick Wes Craven out of a lineup. No,
me neither. Unless he was dressed as, I don't know, the Crow.
Yeah, Wes Craven's the Crow.
Yeah. Did he do the Crow? Yes. I feel bad.
I don't think he did.
Okay.
No, that was Brandon.
I'm going to pretend that I know who Wes Craven is.
He did Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right. And a lot of other... Didn't he do Scream as well?
He did Scream, yep.
Yeah. And that was about it, if I remember right.
Yeah. I mean, he did a bunch of others. He did The Serpent and the Rainbow, which, if we survive long enough and find another farmhouse that also has that DVD in it, maybe we'll watch that.
Oh, that would be nice.
At some point. That would be nice. Yeah. Hopefully we'll survive long enough to watch Wes Craven's problematic Haitian zombie movie.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to look forward to, so I'll take it.
I guess not. Oh yeah, and he made Shocker, which another movie that no one likes, but it does have Mitch Pileggi as a slasher villain who can use electricity.
Sure.
I did not know till this moment that Wes Craven was dead.
What?
I forgot.
I don't remember hearing that. Really?
He died in 2015.
Okay, so not related to the current zombie apocalypse?
No. I had no idea.
2015, holy cow.
Gosh, I just kind of thought he was still with us.
Right.
Huh. Well.
What did he... Okay, Scream 4 was his last movie in 2011.
Yeah.
Huh.
Gosh. Well, yeah, that's mine. Is a bunch of director cameos. Who's your jabroni?
Well, my jabroni, I've mentioned previously, is the professor. That I was particularly, sort of like negatively drawn to, like a train wreck happening in slow motion.
Like a train wreck, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is also your review of the movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Indeed. And I don't know. There's just, he stuck out like a sore thumb. His thick accent and his mannerisms and his dialogue were just so laughable to me every time. Like, it was hard to believe that he was actually a part of the original script as opposed to just sort of being improv'd in.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, here, I'll just tell you. So I looked him up. I wanted to know more about this actor. His name is Scott Wentworth, as you mentioned. And when I looked him up on Wikipedia, the summary that came up really said everything that I needed to know. which
Yeah.
is, and I'll read it to you verbatim. Scott Wentworth, born 1955, is an American actor and director who immigrated to Canada in 1986.
Oh. Huh. So he's doing an accent. I genuinely had no idea.
Yeah. And that was, like, the summary ends there. Like, the only thing he's notable for is that he did some theater and that he moved to Canada.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. And it's possible, like, reading his credits here in the theater, this guy received a Tony nomination in 1989.
Oh. Oh, and it says he worked at the Stratford Festival.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Best performance by a featured actor in a musical. Like, I don't want to crap all over this guy for this very bizarre role, but it's interesting that he would be such a, like, presumably serious artiste on the stage and yet end up in something like this, as well as I see in television Kung Fu The Legend Continues, Law and Order, X-13 the series.
One gets the impression that their casting process was first, who's going to work for scale?
Mm-hmm.
And then who's left? And we're gonna see those people audition. Like, it's a competent cast.
Sure.
I think they're not. I don't know. I don't think quite as poorly the acting as you did. I suppose, but I also, like, I don't know. Wasn't watching it for that. No one was, like, horrible and off-putting. I've seen worse in zombie movies, but yeah, interesting. So not a jabroni that people might have seen.
Most likely not, unless they were very familiar with the New York theater scene.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's my turn. I want to talk about the biker in the girls' dorm when they go to rescue Deborah.
Please
There's
do.
a guy who walks out with a TV.
You know what he reminds me of?
And
is
who did he remind you of?
There's that very old internet meme of the large guy with kind of stringy, short leg hair and a beard, and he's wearing an apron, and he's got his hand in, like, a giant vat of beans. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm familiar with this. No, I do not.
Okay. If we still have
I'm better
any
off for it.
cell service left, I will try and locate it while you're talking.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, you'll have to show, maybe here's my phone. You can look it up and see if it's on Wikipedia, which I'll remind you I downloaded, which is how we're getting these facts.
Oh, that is really helpful. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, all the links still work too. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad I got the pointers and everything with it.
I'm really impressed that you have a cell phone with, like, a terabyte of space.
It's got one of those little SD cards in it. So yeah, that actor's name is George Buza.
Okay.
Now you don't know him. I'm gonna guess.
I do not recognize the name, no.
But you know his voice.
Okay.
That is TV's Beast from the X-Men animated series.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I know his voice from, like, 25 years ago. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. And I love him in this. He's only got two, like, just a couple lines of dialogue where he's like, I'm stealing shit, and he's just so happy to be committing these crimes, and he's like, he has, like, a little giggle when he, like, runs off. Mm-hmm. He's such a scamp, right? And I think that's great.
It was definitely an unexpected meeting in that scene.
Yeah, and I think it's great. And I was just wondering, like, who is that guy? Holy shit, that's Beast.
Now, do you have any idea how he was found for this movie?
No. I already pretty much said my guess. Just like they found cheap, reliable actors. And I think he's always been okay at that. I can't think of anyone in any of his movies I've seen who's been like completely miscast ever. I don't know, maybe like Mr. Cooper from the original Night of the Living Dead, but
Mr. Cooper,
that's
the dad of the zombie girl.
Yeah, I think he's a little wooden, but that's kind of like it.
Yeah, even that I would say is not really so bad.
No, and he had to cast from like the 15 people he knew.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, like his the guy who plays Mr. Cooper's wife is like George's secretary or something. Anyway, do you have another? Do we have room for one more jabroni?
I do not. I was so distracted by the professor that was all I got.
Okay. Do you want to? I'll lob one over the plate for you. You want to talk about Greg Nicotero?
Yes, Nicotero. You probably know more about him than I do. Why should I know him?
You don't know his face, but you know his work. Once again, he is a makeup artist that has worked with George a few times. He did like, oh my god, like what hasn't this guy done? He did Green Mile. He did Mulholland Drive. He did who could forget Ghosts of Mars? He did. He did 13 Ghosts, which I would say of all of these movies have some of the more impressive makeup, even if it's not a very good good movie. Bubba Hotep, a movie I really like. Yeah, he did like.
That's one I saw in middle
everything.
School. That was interesting.
Yeah, he did. He's the. I think he is the key artist on Walking Dead.
Yes, I believe I read that. Yep.
Yeah, but he had worked with George Romero before that.
Well, didn't he get his start on Day of the Dead?
I think so.
That was my understanding.
He was one of Tom Savini's assistants. I might have that wrong. Yes, yeah, that's his like first listed credit. Mm-hmm. So that's neat. Apparently, he's also directing a bunch of Walking Dead, which isn't too surprising because they're down to like whatever dozen people that they are still watching the show and are now propping up the whole economy of Atlanta.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's not only is it still going on, but there's like 2 more spin-offs coming out. That's just insane to me.
Yeah. So do the spin-offs have anything to do with the comics, or they're just new properties based on the TV show?
Oh no, we're in George R. Martin completely off the map territory here.
Yeah, I thought maybe.
Yeah, no. Anyway, Greg Nicotero has a cameo appearance as a zombie doctor
in the hospital sequence.
That's right, and I actually have a little story about that. Apparently his father was a doctor, was a surgeon. He mentioned this to George Romero on some movie they were working on. He was like, putting latex and like blood all over some dude, and he was like, my dad was always hoping I'd be a doctor like him. And so years and years later, like after they shot that scene, like George sidled up to him and be like, "You finally made your MD." Just like a fun little thing that he like remembered about his colleague. I think that's great. I've got one more jabroni if we've got a second.
Absolutely, and then I have like a short addendum to it.
Oh, okay, you've got a jabrindum? No, this is not gonna cut this out.
No, definitely a jabrindum.
A jabrindum. Yeah, Alan Van Sprang plays the National Guardsman who steals all their guns.
Right.
No, I'm sorry. No, it's everything but their guns because
that guy he gives off that like Jeffrey Dean Stanton vibe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm pretty sure I have that name right.
So he plays apparently the same character in the next film, Survival of the Dead, which Sure. Okay, let's hang a let's hang a movie on that guy.
The whole movie. Yeah.
But he's a recurring character on The Tudors.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yes, he plays Sir Francis Bryan, who was a courtier of King Henry VIII. Who is
what's his name again?
Alan Van Sprang.
Alan Van Sprang. Okay.
Yep.
I just want
he's in Sexy Tudors.
Right. I want to confirm my my suspicion here of who he. Oh, okay. It's not as direct as I thought. It might have been mostly the mustache that he had in the movie, but is Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who I was thinking of, who I might have been mixing up with, I think, Harry Dean Stanton. Anyway, Jeffrey Morgan...
Neither of whom were in this film.
No, they aren't. But I can at least tie it back in that Jeffrey Dean Morgan is a character in The Walking Dead.
That's right, yeah. He plays Negan.
Right. And something about the way that Alan played this National Guardsman, I was like, hey, that's like that guy from, he used to be in Grey's Anatomy all that time ago. Who's that, Jabarni?
He reminds me of that guy from Modern Family, who's also in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
I don't know who that is.
I can't remember his name, but I'm not going to look it up.
Well, okay.
Oh, speaking of that movie, yes, the gentleman who played Samuel, the deaf Amish fellow,
Yeah.
was also in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. He plays Glenn, who is the gay organist.
Also Amish, or
No,
just Protestant then?
Sure. He doesn't really discuss it.
Oh, okay. Sort of tech turn.
It may surprise you to know that Zack Snyder does not have a complete worldview for all of his characters, unlike George Romero.
Huh. I would have thought so from every movie that I've seen of his. Especially Sucker Punch, man.
You don't think that Zack Snyder is handing all of the background extras a big journal of all of their family's histories and daily activities like Kurosawa did?
You know what? I actually think he does.
I think he does, and it's just everyone looks in it, and it's just a copy of the Dark Knight Returns.
I went completely the opposite direction, and I was thinking like everybody reads it, but then they discover that their character is just a different character from the show Full House.
I would love to see that. Just any movie where the director has like they're making a completely different movie, but the interiority of all of these other actors, it's just Full House.
It's just the entire cast of Full House.
It's the only notes is like use it. I would pay Earth money to see that, if of course money still had any meaning in a land of turmoil and death.
Boy, did it ever.
I think are we good with this segment? It sounds like we're out of jabronis unless you've got your jabrindum.
Well, the thing that I was going to mention earlier that you made me think of with you were bringing up Greg Nicotero is that one thing that I do really appreciate about this movie that actually is in the behind the scenes context of it is that from what I've read, George Romero, he worked with a lot of the same people over his life, like our great hero Orson Welles. He tended to work with the same people, and I read that he worked on Land of the Dead. He went to Toronto. He had a couple of friends with him, like Peter Grunwald, who you mentioned, and Greg Nicotero, and it seems like he just got so fed up with the whole thing, and maybe even into like midlife crisis a little bit of like, oh, what am I doing here? How have I let this? Why am I making this particular movie? And then his solution was,
this is not my beautiful life. This is not my large industrial city.
Absolutely. And then he decides almost right away by his own description, like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going completely the opposite direction. I'm going to make the cheapest movie possible. I'm going to hire a bunch of college students to do it. We're just going to go out with whatever we have and we're going to shoot it. And I think it's cool that in that spirit, he went and made this movie with his old friends. Like, he had Peter Grunwald again. He got Greg Nicotero back for both special effects and a cameo. He brought back, I read an interview with the executive producer, John Harrison, who was both the composer and the assistant director on Creepshow and Day of the Dead.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so, like, particularly with Day of the Dead, it's like, oh, it's more than 20 years later, almost, and he said, I want to recapture that magic of, like, these earlier movies that I was making. And so he got all his friends together, and he just made a movie happen. And I will absolutely respect and appreciate that part of what he was doing.
Should we enter the splatter zone?
Well, I haven't found any ponchos in this farmhouse, but
Oh, John, I'm talking about Uncle Savini's Splatter Zone, the segment where we talk about an effect that we liked, and either if we know how it was done, how they did it, and if we don't know how it was done, how they might have done it, or just why we liked it. John, you got one?
I do got one. My effect, I wanted to say, was just the CG, but I can narrow it down at least to...
you gotta pick one.
Yeah, I know. So
That's the rules.
Well, the scene in which the infection is first, like, known, where they're shooting that newscast of murder-suicide of a family, and, of course, the dead family members come back to life on the gurney and start attacking all the operators, or the ER workers.
Right.
So at one point, during that segment, they show that the cops were there. They had that cop complaining about how ridiculous all of this was. And then the cops turn and they fired on a zombie who was like a shirtless, just sort of generic zombie coming towards the camera. And I looked at that and thought, is that CG? Is that whole zombie CG? I really think he was. And I found myself taken out of the movie repeatedly because of every time there was a computer-generated effect. It was like, wow, this looks so much worse than all of the practical effects that they used to do.
I know the one you're talking about. I don't think he was. But certainly, the bullet hits.
Oh, yes. All of the bullet hits.
And that does kind of stink because, like, those do look very fake.
And here, can I read you a quote real quick from George Romero?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I understand how he got there, even if I don't get why he did it. He said he was comparing to how much harder it was to film movies earlier. And he said, now it's like being in a dark room for photography. You can go in and add a shadow, or you can do whatever you want to do. So therefore, you can shoot it quicker. You can shoot with basically flat light and fix it later. And you're out of there. The most expensive part of the process is being on set. Like shooting a zombie in the head. You put a squib on him, the squib blows off, stains the wall, but you didn't get the shot. Now you got to clean the wall, put another squib on the guy, fix his makeup, and all of a sudden you're 45 minutes behind. Much easier to have the hero point the gun, the zombie falls, you add the gun flash and sputter in post, and you got it. You're off the set. That's the main thing, getting off the set. And I don't...
Yeah, I mean...
I have worked in visual effects. I don't understand how that could ever possibly be cheaper than just putting a squib on a guy and taking an extra 45 minutes.
I think, a little bit of this is like times have changed. A lot of effects houses and stuff, especially in like Canada and the UK, or like outsourced to other parts of the world. Like that's why you start seeing so many like effects heavy BBC shows around that time. Like Doctor Who especially got way into effects. Now they all looked hokey, but it was cheap. It was a lot cheaper than figuring it out, and there was just no time, to do that stuff. And I do wonder. You would know much better than I would. I do wonder like if some of that stuff has changed. And like I don't know if it's just a thing of like effects artists are going, hey, we would like more money now, please. Because I know that was a discussion that was happening like when we were in school together. Mm-hmm. Of like a lot of VFX artists were going like, hey, it seems like we're carrying the whole movie now. Why don't you pay us good? Mm-hmm. The same way that Hollywood treats any sort of emerging technology as, hey, this is going to be a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
until people start demanding equal rights or whatever. So I don't know. I think they were pretty selective with their shots, and I think some of it was like, okay, so the zombie with they smash a bottle of acid into his head, and acid eats away at his brain. Yep. Yeah, obviously that looks like shit. That's not the point. Like, the point was, how do you do that with makeup? And the answer is, well, you probably don't, unless you have a whole, like an entire dummy that's being eaten away by something like a real chemical. Right. Also, by the way, I think if you shattered a glass of acid on a zombie's head and the glass shattered, I think you'd get some on your hands, is what I'm trying to say. And that would be...
Yeah, it did seem to... maybe it was really concentrated hydrochloric acid, but I was surprised at how quickly that ate through everything.
It got right through.
Because isn't hydrochloric acid the stuff you have in your stomach?
I think so, but I also think like that's what they use for radiocarbon dating, and you wear like a whole rubber suit so it doesn't touch your skin, because if it does, it'll kill you.
God, I'll take that.
Or something. It's either that. I'm not a chemist. I'm not an acidologist here. I got acid reflux sometimes, but that's about as far as I go.
Boy, that is not what you want to hear in the middle of a zombie apocalypse.
No, it's even worse now because it's all scavenged Twinkies and Ritz crackers. I got to get some leafy greens, John. John, we got to loot like a. We need to get up early tomorrow and go looting when the farmers market is set up.
You're right. I shouldn't even. I'm laughing at how simple it is.
Yeah, that's what we should.
And that I should have thought of that myself.
Yeah, we'll just wake up with the chickens and go. We're gonna go loot some bok choy. Get that fiber.
That was a Fish album, right? Looting some bok choy at the farmers market.
To get some fiber, yes, that's right. I'm always quoting that one. Okay. So I have one particular effect. It's when they go to Deborah's house and her family is there, and her zombie little brother jumps on her, and they shoot him with an arrow, and that pins him to the wall.
Yeah, Scott Wentworth just suddenly hulks out.
It's your boy.
Yeah,
Scott Wentworth.
Indeed.
Going full Katniss. And he shoots him right in the head, and it's such a mighty powerful draw that it pins him to the wall. I thought this was great. It's my favorite zombie kill of the movie. It's utterly ridiculous. And they did that surprisingly practically.
Really?
They used a teenage stunt performer.
Okay.
For the zombie, which is also interesting, and like that's got to be a legal like gray area, right? Maybe laws. Maybe laws are well, because usually with kids, usually it's like there's a whole like sub industry of like petite women stunt performers.
Sure.
Specifically to, like, be kids. I think, in fact, we went to school with a couple of them. So, like...
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's neat. But, no, they use, like an actual teenage stunt actor who is himself the child of another... whatever. Anyway, so he had a harness, of course, that yanked him back onto this fake wall on a wire. So it's a pretty simple effect. And that... They added the arrow in post and removed, of course, his head bouncing when it hits the wall. Also CG. I think that's great. It's a very simple effect, but it's very quick. It also comes at the end of the most complicated shot in the movie. According to the interviews I've seen, the very long, like, oneer where they go into the house, they go through, like, 2 different rooms, into the garage, out of the garage, and then fight off the zombies. That, I think, was... they refer to that a couple times being their most difficult shot. That's not too surprising. It is very long. He had certainly never done anything like that in his career. And it makes sense that it's inside a house, because that's one of the few real long indoor segments. They needed to be able to control that. So yeah, that's mine. Any thoughts on that one?
I will say that was definitely one of the biggest gasps that came from me while watching this movie, and some of them were just at how ridiculous or audacious the effect was, but that was like, wow, I definitely haven't seen that in a zombie movie before.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's surprising and, like, impressive that they went for it, even when it is ridiculous in a way, and very realistic. I didn't know how they would have done it other than some weird CG stuff.
No, I mean there was some weird CG stuff in it, but it was largely a practical effect, which is, I think, one of the reasons it looks good.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we should probably wrap it up here and start reinforcing these boards. So why don't we talk about, like, our last little ideas? I'm thinking of calling it Choke on 'em.
Very good.
Does that sound
very good? All right, these are any last thoughts that we don't want to choke on.
Exactly. Thank you,
Colonel Rhodes. I don't have any this time. Thank you, Colonel Rhodes. You died doing what you loved, being wrong about shit.
I think the last thought that's coming to mind is the main character, Jason, right?
Yeah.
Like, the whole movie, he's clearly obsessed with finishing this movie and not actually interacting with what real life is happening around him. And it's just so obvious throughout the whole thing. But I never got what his motivation was or how he thought that was going to work. Because it's like, unless he's so psychotic that he just has lost all control of reality, you would have to realize that in a zombie apocalypse, there's not going to be anyone to watch this. Or, like, why would anybody other than a cartoon villain be thinking of whether they're going to be nominated for an Oscar for this?
He says his motivation out loud twice. Number one, that he had always dreamed of being a documentarian. He says that, like, way early on when we're meeting the characters, and he's like mad that he's making a horror movie. Even though he chose it, he's like, I don't know why, but to challenge myself, I decided to make a horror movie, even though I always wanted to be a documentary filmmaker. And then Deborah shows a little cut of, like, something he recorded himself saying at the very end of the movie. She shows this thing from, like, the first moments of the outbreak where he's like, I'm really excited that this opportunity dropped in my lap. Like, this is just it's just a chance to, like, realize a dream, I guess. I don't know if that's a strong motivation, but it is realized.
Okay, here's you've spawned 2 new stray thoughts.
Okay. I guess it's telling he uses the word opportunity to describe everything that's happening.
Absolutely. The first thought that'll get out of the way is, God, do I want to see the documentary that Werner Herzog would make were he to find himself in a zombie apocalypse. It would
be so good.
It really would.
So Werner, my friend, if you're listening, just point the camera outside And turn on your mic. We're really curious about what your thoughts are in this whole situation.
Absolutely. But then the second thing would be Jason. Yes, he does say that bit at the end about like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and like, I'm definitely gonna live up to the moment and stuff like that. And it just struck me as like, how could anybody but a complete psychopath only about like, oh my god, this is such an amazing opportunity for my career.
John, you've spent time
what's going around them. Like that's an unrealistic cartoon sort of villain to me.
That's film students
like myself.
Yes. Like, so many of you were like that. It was infuriating.
Whew, boy. Okay. Well, it's a good thing I said something because I did not realize this at the time.
It wasn't all of you. It wasn't the ones I still speak to. I mean, thank God our culture has evolved where we have a term for this now. That's theater kid energy. Right? That's all that is. Of like, you're always trying to find your angle. You're trying to work the room. Mm-hmm. And like you're performing hoping that there's going to be like a benefit to you for doing that at some point. That's just theater kid energy, like, and he's got that, and I think that's really accurate. And I think that does kind of answer, like, that scene is meant to answer your question of like, why would you do this? You would have to be like troubled somehow to willingly distance yourself from reality. And I think they do establish that his character is that, and I do think that was like on purpose. The essay I read about this talks about the time when he sees his own reflection when he's walking around the empty warehouse.
Yeah.
And he's startled by his own reflection because he does not wish to, in a very real sense, confront himself. Right? So like he sees his own reflection, he's startled by it, and the only way he can disarm this is to point the camera at it, like directly. That's his defense.
Mm-hmm. I understand what you're saying, even if I'm not convinced yet.
Yeah, I can't trick you into liking this movie with my honeyed words. but all I can do is try and get you to go, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from. But
well, Theron, I see where you're coming from.
Great. Should we rate this sucker?
Yes. Let me close out this segment with one last quick quote from executive producer John Harrison. Oh, I love it. I love it. It's very clever. I was really proud to be involved with it. Like any film, there are little things here and there. Little winces, maybe. And that was it. That was him in an interview about Diary of the Dead.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's rate this sucker.
Yeah. Now that society has collapsed, we're not constrained to rules. Mm-hmm. We don't have to be limited to the tyranny of thumbs up, thumbs down,
4 out of 5,
or out of 10s, or grades, letter grades. Those were a bad idea to start.
70% tomatoes.
70% tomatoes. How many tomatoes? I would kill a man for a tomato now. I may never see another one again. Those cans of tomatoes we ate from the kitchen, just straight out of the can. That might be it. That might be the last one. I might have to make do.
Boy, you are not making it easy to get to the end of this podcast.
We are. I'm sorry, do you have something else going on while the bloodthirsty dead are pounding at the door? So we're going to take each of these movies and kind of figure out which of the Romero sextuplets...
Is that right?
The word
6?
For 6?
Yeah, I think there's 6.
Yeah.
No. Yeah,
which of Romero's 6-bot zombie movies each one is closest to, and how well it does. And I think we'll do this out of 5 and whole numbers only. And the lowest is 1, not 0.
Right.
So I'm going to rate this 5 Diaries of the Dead out of 5.
Interesting.
I think this was the movie he could have made.
Like with the things that were going on at the time and the resources that he had, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think so. And I think this movie, like, came to him in a way that might not have, he like had this idea out of being frustrated with Land of the Dead and like just seeing like so much Iraq War stuff on the TV. A lot of the stock footage and like images are taken from like real world events that were happening at the time, and a lot of it was like police actions, a lot of it was riots and violence in other parts of the world. And this avoids the easy route of like stealing images from 9/11, but you can kind of feel it through the news broadcasts that are just kind of ever present. It's a lot of confused people both trying to figure out what's happening and trying to make their voices heard, whether that's contributing anything or not. And to me, I was in St. Louis, far from the center of events, but to me that most closely matched my feelings of that day and the next few that followed, of just the confusion and like needing to be glued to media constantly to figure out what was happening and what was going to be done.
Sure.
So again, vibes.
Yeah, I respect that. I see that. Well, I guess what you say reinforces the thought that I had, which is that I would be so curious to know what movie Romero would have made at the time that he saw the Trump presidency play out, and like where the level of misinformation on the internet was going to go.
I have no idea. He wouldn't have been subtle.
Okay. Have you seen Survival of the Dead?
I have.
So I thought, like, I had that thought, and then I was like, oh, maybe that's what Survival of the Dead is about.
Not really. Survival of the Dead is a lot more self-contained.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I hope we can locate that DVD somewhere in this house.
If they left Diary of the Dead, they almost certainly left Survival. What's your rating?
Good point. So for me, I would say whole ratings only. This movie is a 3 out of 5 Diaries of the Dead.
Okay. Interesting. Not terribly surprising.
Right. I figured you wouldn't be. And you used the phrase ambitious failure earlier, and to me that's what this was. Like I've read and I've imagined what could have been with this kernel of an idea that apparently Romero and his friends had for several years. And the movie that I watched just did not live up to what I thought it could be.
Yeah, I agree. I think you and your friends could make that movie.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't think either he wasn't equipped for it, or like it was too ahead of its time, or he didn't. I mean that in the sense that like he didn't sit on it long enough. If he'd made this even like 1 or 2 years later, or had another rewrite, he would have had the chance to see like what real bullshit we can get up to. And also he wouldn't have had a competition on MySpace, because that was heading out the door. That was going out the door.
Yeah, I think, well, here there's one last quote I wrote down because I thought it struck me, was George Romero saying, "But there's also a lot I didn't have time to talk about last time," referring to Diary. About media and about the dangers of it. I have a whole notebook of ideas that I could use. Diary of the Dead is a fun rise, but there's a lot more to say. And the impression I got is that he had such a great spark of an idea, and I wish that he'd just gone a little further with it.
Yeah, it seemed like he was genuinely excited about this like idea.
Yeah.
From what I've read.
Yeah. And I understand why. I totally get it.
Okay. Well, on that note, John, looks like they're coming through the windows.
Oh, is that what the noise is?
Yeah, that's what that noise is.
All right.
Yeah, I guess we should go. Let's go deal with that.
Yeah, crowbar's over there in the corner.
Yeah. In the meantime, everybody, stay safe and get him in the head.
Kill the ghoul.
Oh, should let's do that. Yeah, let's do that again. In the meantime, everybody stay safe. And remember, if you kill the brain...
You kill the ghoul.
I think we got it.
Sure.